Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome back to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books, right here in the live studios at Hythe, southeast coast of England. Looking out the window, you can see the English Channel in the distance. It's become a real haven because of these readings every day. Welcome to all of you with affection and gratitude. I hope my lack of punctuality is not affecting anyone's ability to come regularly. But anyway, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur had something to say about the Caitanya-caritämrta. He said, in due course, Mahapralaya, devastating floods, will inundate the entire universe. If you attempt to survive by swimming in that deluge, then do not neglect to take hold of Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and Sri Caitanya-caritämrta. Or if you cannot hold all three, then release Bhagavad Gita. If necessary, you may also relinquish Srimad Bhagavatam, but under no circumstances release your hold on Sri Caitanya-caritämrta. For if this one book remains, then the flood can do no actual damage, because after it has subsided, the message of Shastra can be revived from Sri Caitanya-caritämrta alone, it being the essence of all Shastra. So let's not take it literally. We don't want to release Bhagavad Gita or relinquish Srimad Bhagavatam. This is a poetic glorification, beautifully done by the master of masters, the master of our master, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda Jai Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Okay, we reached the auspicious number, verse 108 of chapter 10 of the Ädi-lilä, continuing glorification of the trunk, branches, and sub-branches of the Chaitanya tree. Text 108. Jagannath Acharya, the 50th branch of the Chaitanya tree, was an extremely dear servant of the Lord, by whose order he decided to live on the bank of the Ganges. Purport. Jagannath Acharya is stated in the Gaura Ganodesha Dipika 111 to have formerly been Durvasa of Niduvan. Text 109. The 51st branch of the Chaitanya tree was Krishnadas Vaidya. The 52nd was Pandit Shekhar. The 53rd was Kavichandra. And the 54th was Shashtivar, who was a great Sankirtan performer. Purport. In the Gaura Ganodesha Dipika 171, it is mentioned that the Kavichandra was Manohara Gopi, and that Srinath Mishra, mentioned in the next text, was Chetrangi Gopi. Text 110. The 55th branch was Srinath Mishra. The 56th was Subhananda. The 57th was Sri Ram. The 58th was Ishan. The 59th was Srinidhi. And the 60th was Sri Gopikanta, and the 61st was Mishra Bhagavan. Purport. Shubhananda, who formerly lived in Vrindavan as Malati, was one of the kirtan performers who danced in front of the Rath cart during the Jagannath festival. It is said that he ate the foam that came out of the Lord's mouth while the Lord danced before the Ratha Yatra car. Ishan was the personal servant of Srimati Shachi Devi, who showered her great mercy upon him. He was also very dear to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Text 11. The 62nd branch of the tree was Suburi Mishra. The 63rd was Hridayananda. The 64th was Kamala Nayana. The 65th was Mahesh Pandit. The 66th was Shrikar. And the 67th was Sri Madhusudana. Purport. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur writes in his Anubhasha, Suburi Mishra was formerly Gunda Chuda in Vrindavan, installed Goran Nityananda. I'll read it again, sorry. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur writes in his Anubhasha, Suburi Mishra, who was formerly Guna Chuda in Vrindavan, installed Gaura Nityananda deities in a temple in the village known as Belgaon, which is about 3 miles away from Srikhanda. Belgaon. His present descendant is known as Govinda Chandra Goswami. Text 112. The 68th branch of the original tree was Purushottam. The 69th was Sri Galim. The 70th was Jagannath Das. The 71st was Sri Chandrasekhar Vaidya. And the 72nd was Dvija Haridas. Purport. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur writes in his Anubhasha, there is some question about whether Dvija Haridas was the author of Ashottara Shata Nama. He had 2 sons named Sridham and Gokulananda, who were disciples of Sri Advaita Acharya. Their village, Kanchanagadia, is situated within 5 miles of the Bajaraso station, the 5th station from Asinganj in the district of Murshidabad in West Bengal. Text 113. The 73rd branch of the original tree was Ram Das. The 74th was Kavi Chandra. The 75th was Shri Gopal Das. The 76th was Bhagavat Ashraya. And the 77th was Thakur Saranga Das. Purport. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur writes in his Anubhasha, in the Gauraganodesha Deepika 203, it is said Bhagavat Ashraya compiled a book entitled Tarangani, and he was the most beloved devotee of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. When Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu visited Varahanagara, now a suburb of Calcutta, he stayed in the house of a most fortunate Brahmana who was a very learned scholar in Bhagavat literature. As soon as this Brahmana saw Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he began to read Srimad Bhagavatam. When Mahaprabhu heard his explanation, which expounded Bhakti Yoga, he immediately became unconscious in ecstasy. Lord Chaitanya later said, I have never heard such a nice explanation of Srimad Bhagavatam. I therefore designate you Bhagavat Acharya. Your only duty is to recite Srimad Bhagavatam. That is my injunction. His real name was Raghunath. His monastery, which is situated in Varahanagara, about 3.5 miles north of Calcutta, on the bank of the Ganges, still exists, and it is managed by the initiated disciples of the late Sri Ramadas Babaji. Presently, however, it is not as well managed as in the presence of Babaji Maharaj. Another name of Thakur's Saranga Das was Sanga Thakur, Sharanga Thakur. Sometimes he was also called Shangapani or Shangadara. He was a resident of Navadvip in the neighborhood known as Modum Dweep, and he used to worship the Supreme Lord in a secluded place on the bank of the Ganges. He was not accepting disciples, but he was repeatedly being inspired from within by the Supreme Personality of Godhead to do so. Thus one morning he decided, "Whomever I see, I shall make my disciple." When he went to the bank of the Ganges to take his bath, by chance he saw a dead body floating in the water, and he touched it with his feet. This immediately brought the body to life, and Thakur Sharanga Das accepted him as his disciple. This disciple later became famous as Thakur Murari, and his name is still always associated with that of Sri Sharanga. His disciplic succession still inhabits the village of Shar. There is a temple at Mamgachji that is said to have been started by Sharanga Thakur. Not long ago, a new temple building was erected in front of a bakul tree there, and it is now being managed by the members of the Gaudiya Math. It is said that the management of the temple is now far better than before. In the Gora Ganodesha Dipika 172, it is stated that Sharanga Thakur was formerly a gopi named Nandimukhi. Some devotees say that he was formerly Prahlad Maharaj, but Sri Kavikanupur says that his father, Shivananda Sen, does not accept this proposition. Text 114. The 78th branch of the original tree was Jagannath Tirtha. The 79th was the Brahmana Sri Janakinath. The 80th was Gopalacharya, and the 81st was the Brahmana Vaninath. Purport. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur writes in his Anubhashya, Jagannath Tirtha was one of the 9 principal sannyasis who were Lord Chaitanya's associates. Vaninath Vipra was a resident of Chanpahati, a village in the district of Burdwan, near the town of Navadvip. The police station of Purvastali and the post office of Samudragada. I see. Vaninath Vipra was a resident of Chanpahati, a village in the district of Burdwan, near the town of Navadvip. The police station of Purvastali and the post office of Samudragada. The temple there was very much neglected, but it was renovated in the Bengali year 1328, AD 1921, by Sri Paramananda Brahmachari, one of Sri Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's disciples, who reorganized the Seva Puja, worship of the temple, in the temple, and placed the temple under the management of the Sri Caitanya Math of Sri Mayapur. In the temple as it now exists, the deity of Sri Gaura Gadadhar is worshipped strictly according to the principles of the real scriptures. Chanpahati is 2 miles away from both Samudragada and the Navadvip station of the Eastern Railway. Text 115. The 3 brothers, Govinda, Madhava, and Vasudeva, were the 82nd, 83rd, and 84th branches of the tree. Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda used to dance in their kirtan performances. Purport. The three brothers, Govinda, Madhava, and Vasudev Ghosh, all belonged to a Kayastha family. Govinda established the Gopinath temple in Agradweep, where he resided. Madhava Ghosh was expert in performing kirtan. No one within this world could compete with him. He was known as the singer of Vrindavan and was very dear to Sri Nityananda Prabhu. It is said that when the three brothers performed Sankirtan, immediately Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda would dance in ecstasy. According to the Gaura Ganodesha Deepika 188, the three brothers were formerly Kalavati, Rasolasa, and Gunatunga, who recited the songs composed by Sri Vishaka Gopi. The three brothers were among one of the 7 parties that performed kirtan when Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu attended the Rath Yatra festival at Jagannath Puri. Vakreshwar Pandit was the chief dancer in their party. This is vividly described in the Madhya-lilā, chapter 13, verses 42 and 43. Text 116. Ramdas Abhiram was fully absorbed in the mellow of friendship. He made a flute of a bamboo stick with 16 knots. Abhiram was an purport. Abhiram was an inhabitant of Kanakula Krishna Nagar. Kanakula Krishna Nagar. 117. By the order of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, 3 devotees accompanied Sri Nityananda Prabhu when he returned to Bengal to preach. 118. These 3 were Ramadas, Madhava Ghosh, and Vasudev Ghosh. Govinda Ghosh, however, remained with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at Jagannath Puri and thus felt great satisfaction. Text 119. Bhagavat Acharya, Chiranjeev, Sri Raghunath, Sri Raghunandana, Madhvacharya, Kamalakanta, and Sri Yadunandana were all among the branches of the Chaitanya tree. Don't say that again. I messed up on something. Bhagavat Acharya, Chiranjeev, Sri Raghunandana, Madhvacharya, Kamalakanta, and Sri Yadunandana were all among the branches of the Chaitanya tree. Purport. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur writes in his Anubhashya, Sri Madhvacharya was the husband of Lord Nityananda's daughter, Ganga Devi. He took initiation from Purushottam, a branch of Nityananda Prabhu. It is said that when Nityananda Prabhu's daughter married Madhvacharya, the Lord gave him the village named Panchinagar as a dowry. Madhvacharya's temple is situated near the Jirat railway station on the Eastern Railway. According to the Gaura Ganodesha Deepika 169, Sri Madhvacharya was formerly the gopi named Madhavi. Kamalakanta belonged to the branch of Sri Advaita Prabhu. His full name was Kamalakanta Vishwas. Text 120. Jagai and Madhai, the 89th and 90th branches of the tree, were the greatest recipients of Lord Chaitanya's mercy. These 2 brothers were the witnesses who proved that Lord Chaitanya was rightly named Patita Pavana, the deliverer of the fallen souls. Purport. In the Gaura Ganodesha Deepika 115, it is said that the 2 brothers Jagai and Madhai were formerly the doorkeepers named Jai and Vijay, who later became Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu. Jagai and Madai were born in respectable Brahmana families, but they adopted the professions of thieves and rogues, and thus became implicated in all kinds of undesirable activities, especially woman hunting, intoxication, and gambling. Later, by the grace of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Sri Nityananda Prabhu, they were initiated and they got the chance to chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. As a result of chanting, both brothers became exalted devotees of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The descendants of Madhai still exist, and they are respectable Brahmanas. The tombs of these two brothers, Jagai and Madhai, are in a place known as Goshahata or Madailatal Gram. That word is Madaitala or Madaitala Gram, which is situated about 1 mile south of Katwa. It is said that Sri Gopi Charanadas Babaji established a temple of Nitai Gora at this place about 250 years ago. Text 121. I have given a brief description of the devotees of Lord Chaitanya in Bengal. Actually, his devotees are innumerable. 122. I have especially mentioned all these devotees because they accompanied Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Bengal and Orissa and served him in many ways. Purport. Most of the devotees of Lord Chaitanya lived in Bengal and Orissa. Thus they are celebrated as Gaudiya. Thus they are celebrated as Gaudiyas and Oriyas. At present, however, by the grace of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his cult is being propagated all over the world, and it is most probable that in the future history of Lord Chaitanya's movement, Europeans, Americans, Canadians, Australians, South Americans, Asians, and people from all over the world will be celebrated as devotees of Lord Chaitanya. The International Society for Krishna Consciousness has already constructed a big temple at Mayapur, Navadvip, which is being visited by devotees from all parts of the world, as foretold by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and anticipated by Sri Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Text 123. Let me briefly describe some of the devotees of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Jagannath Puri. 124 to 126. Among the devotees who accompanied the Lord in Jagannath Puri, two of them, Paramananda Puri and Surup Damodar, were the heart and soul of the Lord. Among the other devotees were Gadadhar, Jagadananda, Shankar, Vakreshwar, Damodar Pandit, Thakur Haridas, Raghunath Vaidya, and Raghunath Das. Purport. The Chaitanya Bhagavat, Antyakanda, chapter 5, states that Raghunath Vaidya came to see Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu when the Lord was staying at Panihati. He was a great devotee and had all good qualities. According to the Chaitanya Bhagavat, he was formerly Revati, the wife of Balaram. Anyone he glanced upon would immediately attain Krishna consciousness. He lived on the seashore at Jagannath Puri and compiled a book of the name Stana Nirupana. Text 127. All these devotees were associates of the Lord from the very beginning, and when the Lord took up residence in Jagannath Puri, they remained there to serve him faithfully. 128. All the devotees who resided in Bengal used to visit Jagannath Puri every year to see the Lord. Now let me enumerate the devotees of Bengal who first came to see to Lord Jagannath Puri. 130. There was Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, one of the biggest branches of the tree of the Lord, and his sister's husband, Sri Gopinath Acharya. Purport. The original name of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was Vasudeva Bhattacharya. His place of birth, which is known as Vidyanagara, is about 2.5 miles away from the Navadvip railway station or Chanpahati railway station. His father was a very much celebrated man of the name Maheshwara Visharada. It is said that Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was the greatest logician of his time in India. At Matila in Bihar, he became a student of a great professor named Pakshadhara Mishra, who did not allow any student to note down his explanations of logic. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was so talented, however, that he learned the explanations by heart, and when he later returned to Navadvip, he established a school for the study of logic, thus diminishing the importance of Mithila. Students from various parts of India still come to Navadvip to study logic. According to some authoritative opinions, the celebrated logician Raghunath Shiromani was also a student of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya's. In effect, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya became the leader of all students of logic. Although he was a grihastha, householder, he even taught many sannyasis in the knowledge of logic. He started a school at Jagannath Puri for the study of Vedanta philosophy, of which he was a great scholar. When Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya met Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he advised the Lord to learn Vedanta philosophy from him. But later, he became a student of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to understand the real meaning of Vedanta. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was so fortunate as to see the six-armed form of Lord Chaitanya, known as Shadbhuj. A Shadbhuj deity is still situated at one end of the Jagannath temple. Daily Sankirtan performances take place in this part of the temple. The meeting of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya with Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is vividly described in Ädi-lilä, chapter 6. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya wrote a book of 100 verses named Caitanya Shataka or Shushloka Shataka. 2 other verses he wrote, beginning with the words Vairagya Vidya Nija Bhakti Yoga and Kala Nashtam Bhakti Yogam Nijam Yaha, are very famous among Gaudiya Vaishnavas. The Gauraganu Deshadipika 119 states that Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was an incarnation of Brihaspati, the learned scholar from the celestial planets. Gopinath Acharya, who belonged to a respectable Brahmana family, was also an inhabitant of Navadvip and a constant companion of the Lord. He was the husband of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya's sister. In the Gauraganu Deshadipika 178, it is described that he was formerly the gopi named Ratnavali. According to the opinion of others, he was an incarnation of Brahma. Text 131. In the list of devotees at Jagannath Puri, which begins with Paramananda Puri, Sarup Damodar, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, and Gopinath Acharya, Kashi Mishra was the 5th, Pradyumna Mishra the 6th, and Bhavananda Roy the 7th. Lord Chaitanya took great pleasure in meeting with them. Purport. In Jagannath Puri, Lord Chaitanya lived at the house of Kashi Mishra, who was the priest of the king. Later this house was inherited by Vakreshwar Pandit and then taken by his disciple Gopala Guru Goswami, who established the deity of Radhakanta there. The Gaura-Gaunadesha Dipika 193 states that Kashi Mishra was formerly Kubja in Mathura. Pradyumna Mishra, an inhabitant of Orissa, was a great devotee of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Pradyumna Mishra was born of a Brahmana family and Ramananda Roy of a non-Brahmana family, yet Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu advised Pradyumna Mishra to take instruction from Ramananda Roy. This incident is described in the Ädi-lilä, chapter 5. Bhavananda Roy was the father of Sri Ramananda Roy. His residence was in Alalanath, Brahmagiri, which is about 12 miles west of Jagannath Puri. By caste, he belonged to the Karana community of Orissa, whose members were sometimes known as Kayastas and sometimes as Shudras. His son Ramananda Roy was the governor of Madras under the control of King Pratarudra of Jagannath Puri. Text 132. Embracing Roy Bhavananda, the Lord declared to him, "You formerly appeared as Pandu, and your 5 sons appeared as the 5 Pandavas." Text 133. The 5 sons of Bhavananda Roy were Ramananda Roy, Patanayaka Gopinath, Kalanidhi, Sudanidhi, and Nayaka Vaninath. Text 134. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told Bhavananda Roy, "Your 5 sons are all my dear devotees. Ramananda Roy and I are one, although our bodies are different." Purport. The Gaura-Gaunadesha Dipika 120 to 124 states that Ramananda Roy was formerly Arjuna. He is also considered to have been an incarnation of Gopi, Lalita, although in the opinion of others, he was an incarnation of Vishaka Devi. He was a most confidential devotee of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, "Although I am a sannyasi, my mind is sometimes perturbed when I see a woman. But Ramananda Roy is greater than me, for he is always undisturbed, even when he touches a woman." Only Ramananda Roy was endowed with the prerogative to touch a woman in this way. No one should imitate him. Unfortunately, there are rascals who imitate the activities of Ramananda Roy. We need not discuss them further. In Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's final pastimes, Ramananda Roy and Surup Damodar always engaged in reciting suitable verses from Srimad Bhagavatam and other books to pacify the Lord's ecstatic feelings of separation from Krishna. When Lord Chaitanya went to southern India, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya advised him to meet Ramananda Roy, declaring that there was no devotee as advanced in understanding the conjugal love of Krishna and the gopis. While touring South India, Lord Chaitanya met Ramananda Roy by the bank of the Godavari, and in their long discourses, the Lord took the position of a student, and Ramananda Roy instructed him. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu concluded these discourses by saying, "My dear Ramananda Roy, both you and I are madmen, and therefore we met intimately on an equal level." Lord Chaitanya advised Ramananda Roy to resign from his government post and come back to Jagannath Puri to live with him. Although Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu refused to see Maharaj Prataparudra because he was a king, Ramananda Roy, by a Vaishnava scheme, arranged a meeting between the Lord and the king. This is described in the Madhya-lilā, chapter 12, verses 41 through 57. Sri Ramananda Roy was present during the water sports of the Lord after the Rath Yatra festival. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu considered Sri Ramananda Roy and Sri Sanatana Goswami to be equal in their renunciation. For although Sri Ramananda Roy was a grihastha engaged in government service, and Sri Sanatana Goswami was in the renounced order of complete detachment from material activities, they were both servants of the Supreme Personality of Godhead who kept Krishna in the center of all their activities. Sri Ramananda Roy was one of the 3.5 personalities with whom Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu discussed the most confidential topics of Krishna consciousness. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu advised Pradyumna Mishra to learn the science of Krishna from Sri Ramananda Roy. As Subal always assisted Krishna in his dealings with Radharani in Krishna-lilā, so Ramananda Roy assisted Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his feelings of separation from Krishna. Sri Ramananda Roy was the author of the Jagannath Vallabha Nataka. Text 135 and 136. King Prataparudra of Orissa, the Oriya devotees Krishnananda and Shivananda and Paramananda Mahapatra, Bhagavanacharya, Brahmananda Bharati, Sri Shiki Mahiti, and Murari Mahiti, constantly associated with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu while he resided in Jagannath Puri. Purport. Prataparudra Maharaj, who belonged to the dynasty of the Ganga kings and whose capital was in Cuttack, was the emperor of Orissa and a great devotee of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It was by the arrangement of Ramananda Roy and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya that he was able to personally serve Lord Chaitanya. In the Gauraganodesha Deepika 118, it is said that King Indrajumna, who established the temple of Jagannath thousands of years ago, later took birth again in his own family as Maharaj Prataparudra during the time of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Maharaj Prataparudra was as powerful as King Indra. The drama named Caitanya-caritämrta was written under his direction. In the Chaitanya Bhagavat, Antya-khanda, chapter 5, Paramananda Mahapatra is described as follows. Paramananda Mahapatra was among the devotees who took birth in Orissa and accepted Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as their only asset. Bhagavanacharya, a very learned scholar, was formerly an inhabitant of Halisahar, but he left everything to live with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Jagannath Puri. His relationship with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was friendly, like that of a cowherd boy. He was always friendly to Sarup Damodar, but he was staunchly devoted to the lotus feet of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He sometimes invited Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to his house. That was Bhagavan Acharya. And Bhagavan Acharya was very liberal and simple. His father, Shatananda Khan, was completely materialistic, and his younger brother, Gopal Bhattacharya, was a staunch Mayavadi philosopher who had studied very elaborately. When his brother came to Jagannath Puri, Bhagavan Acharya wanted to hear from him about Mayavad philosophy, but Sarup Damodar forbade him to do so, and there the matter stopped. Once a friend of Bhagavan Acharya's from Bengal wanted to recite a drama that he had written that was against the principles of devotional service, and although Bhagavan Acharya wanted to recite the drama before Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sarup Damodar, the Lord's secretary, did not allow him to do so. Later, Sarup Damodar pointed out the drama's many mistakes and its disagreements with the conclusion of devotional service, and the author became aware of the faults in his writing and then surrendered to Sarup Damodar, begging his mercy. This is described in the Ädi-lilä, Caitanya 5, chapter 5, verses 98, or 91 rather, through 158. It's interesting, isn't it, to note that even if a person was argumentative or off philosophically, if they were honest and they actually were defeated by a bona fide Vaishnava, then they would surrender to that person. Whereas nowadays, nobody surrenders to anybody, no matter what. It's a difference in culture. In the Gora Ganodesha Dipika 189, it is stated that Shiki Mahiti was formerly an assistant of Srimati Radharani named Ragaleka. His sister Madhavi was also an assistant of Srimati Radharani and was named Kalakeli. Shiki Mahiti, Madhavi, and their brother Murari Mahiti were all unalloyed devotees of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and could not forget him for a moment of their lives. There is a book in the Oriya language called Caitanya-caritämrta Mahakavya, in which there are many narrations about Shiki Mahiti. One narration concerns his seeing an ecstatic dream. Shiki Mahiti was always engaged in serving the Lord in his mind while he was asleep, and while he was asleep, his brother and sister came to awaken him. At that time he was in full ecstasy because he was having a wonderful dream that Lord Chaitanya, while visiting the temple of Jagannath, was entering and coming out of the body, and was entering and again coming out of the body of Jagannath and looking at the Jagannath deity. Thus, as soon as he awakened, he embraced his brother and sister and informed them, "My dear brother and sister, I have had a wonderful dream that I shall now explain to you. The activities of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the son of Mother Shachi, are certainly most wonderful. I saw that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, while visiting the temple of Jagannath, was entering the body of Jagannath and again coming out of his body. I am still seeing the same dream. Do you think I have become deranged? Am I still seeing the same dream? And the most wonderful thing is that as soon as I came near Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he embraced me with his long arms." As Shiki Mahiti spoke to his brother and sister in this way, his voice faltered and there were tears in his eyes. Thus the brothers and sister went to the temple of Jagannath, and there they saw Lord Chaitanya in the Jagamohan Kirtan hall, looking at the beauty of the Sri Jagannath deity, just as in Shiki Mahiti's dream. The Lord was so magnanimous that he immediately embraced Shiki Mahiti, exclaiming, "You are the elder brother of Murari." Being thus embraced, Shiki Mahiti felt ecstatic, transcendental bliss. Thus he and his brother and sister always engaged in rendering service to the Lord. Murari Mahiti, the younger brother of Shiki Mahiti, is described in the Madhya-lilā, chapter 10, verse 44. What a wonderful purport, huh? It's interesting. So this was found in the Caitanya-caritämrta Mahakavya. So during our readings, we're coming across the names of so many transcendental literatures written by so many great devotees. It's not possible to enumerate them all or know about them even. So just imagine what it was like then. All these exalted personalities, you might run into them any day. Amazing and wonderful, extremely wonderful. Okay, so I will stop the reading today and ask humbly and sincerely that the devotees who are watching and listening may please bless me with some reflections and further discussion on this section of Caitanya-caritämrta. It's so wonderful to hear about the eternal associates of Lord Chaitanya and who they were in Krishna Lila and the different wonderful things they said and wrote. Very purifying. Just by hearing their names, you become eligible to be in the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya. And here we are, in a chapter of the Caitanya-caritämrta that hasn't been written yet. Hare Krishna. Okay.
First one is from Gauranga Gopal Das.
Hey Gauranga Gopal, Haribo.
He says, Hare Krishna Maharaj, it is so nice to hear about all these glorious devotees. I was wondering, do we know how Jai and Vijay got the mercy of appearing in Lord Chaitanya's pastimes? It seems that they come here like a cameo of some renowned actors in a movie. And after their appearance in this pastime, did they go back to keeping their door in Vaikuntha, or did they gain a place in Vraj?
Well, I haven't heard anything directly about this. And plus my mind, I'm not such a great historian, because I just read 3 or 4 purports that I couldn't even remember having read, and I just read this whole book even more carefully than I'm reading to you now, because I didn't make any mistakes. I had to go back and keep going back until I made no mistakes. Anyway, hopefully very soon that audiobook of Caitanya-caritämrta will come out of the VBT, maybe early next year sometime, and you can all relish it. But anyway, even though I'm not a great historian or great scholar and don't have a memory like, what was the name of the person? It was Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, who went to study with a great logician scholar in Navadvip, who didn't allow anybody to take notes. That's the way sometimes they were. They didn't want anybody to become as renowned as them. But Sarvabhauma was so expert, he memorized everything. And then he opened a school, and it minimized the place where the Vachaspati was, who taught the Bhattacharya, Sarvabhauma. So, the only thing I do know is things that I've heard from Gopi Puranananda Prabhu, who was a very learned scholar and Sanskritist, and read a lot of books we don't even know about, and knew a lot of details. And he said that Jaganmadai came back and appeared as, Jai and Vijay came back and appeared as Jagai and Madai because they wanted to get Krishna Prema. They didn't get Krishna Prema. Another way of looking at it would be to say that they also got Mahaprabhu's Mahaprema, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Mahaprema. But in any case, although I haven't read it, and I don't mean to pretend that I know something that I don't, which is against my principles, that's why you notice why I spend a lot of time reading directly Srila Prabhupada's books and not writing books myself or giving so many lectures and everything like that, just my own personal nature. But it is possible to live in Goloka Vrindavan, both in Krishna Lila and in Chaitanya Lila at the same time. It is possible. Whether or not Jaganmadai and Jai Vijay live like that, they would have to be in one place in Vaikuntha as the gatekeepers, in another place in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in Shvetadvip, in Goloka Vrindavan. It's possible. There's nothing impossible in the spiritual world, but we have to be careful not to make up things either. Not to just, because anything's possible, we can say anything we want out of our mouths and say it's possible, therefore you should accept it. So I don't say it in that mood. I'm just, like in many places in Prabhupada's purports, as you've noticed, it will say, such and such did this or was born here. Another opinion was that he was born here, and this and that. So in Krishna consciousness, in devotional scholarship and devotional service, we don't pay as much attention to the detail of historic events and persons and how they actually unfolded. But we are mainly concerned with the rasa, with the spiritual emotions, and that they don't become misrepresented, you know. So therefore, even though there may be details that don't sometimes turn out to be absolute, this he once said this and somebody said another thing and that one's not true. Sometimes exalted persons have opinions that are accepted by the acharyas and are actually stated by the acharyas. Even in Prabhupada's books you hear things like this. So if we are literalists, like some Christian literalists are, and they won't accept anything that you say unless it's said in exactly the same words and sentence structure as in the Bible, for instance. Even you say the same thing, but in different construction or different words, they won't accept it because it's not in the Bible. Right? So we're not like that, and we shouldn't be like that. We shouldn't think that we shouldn't become mundane literalists, you know, and cause some difference of opinion in some detail from one acharya to another, or one great devotee to another, to cause us to have doubt. That is mundane, to say the least. And that mentality will prevent us from hearing properly, meaning completely submissively, so that the sound can go into the brain, through the mind, into the heart, to the soul, and wake up the soul. And some people may think we're deranged, just like that great devotee, who was it? Shiki Mahiti, who had the dream. He was seeing Lord Chaitanya, entering into Jagannath deity and then again coming out, and then he embraced him, and he woke up. His brother and sister woke him up, and he was still seeing the dream while he was apparently awake, talking to them. And he said, "I still see the dream. Do you think I'm deranged?" So when Lord Chaitanya said the goal of Krishna consciousness is to become mad after Krishna, that's what Lord Chaitanya taught us. But we can't become mad after Krishna, just like an actor becomes mad because he's playing a part, or cry and do other things just because, that's what it is and says in the scripture to do. And then they do it like an actor can, cry spontaneously when he's playing a different part, even though it doesn't have anything to do with reality. Some details. Hare Krishna.
Next is something from Rati Manjari.
Hey Rati, Haribol, you must be relishing this one. So many nice details and ecstatic feelings. Go ahead.
She says, "Dear Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. Who was the half person that was an intimate devotee of Lord Chaitanya?"
That was the sister of Shiki Mahiti. And that's how it's written in Bengali and Sanskrit, and therefore Prabhupada translates it like this, because she was a woman and she wasn't considered to be, it was a way to differentiate between the brother and the sister. It was she who Junior Haridas went to get the rice. And when Lord Chaitanya heard he went there to get the rice, and he detected And she was a senior person. She was older, you know. And somehow or other there was some detection by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that he glanced at someone, some young girl, a young woman there in the house of Shikamihiti when he went to get the rice. And therefore, the pastime of Junior Haridas happened. So, meaning we should be very careful. Whether we're a man or a woman, whether we're a man or a woman, as the verse says, Yuvatinam tata yuni yunam cha yuvatawyata mano bidabate tadva mano me ramatam twayi. Just as a young man takes pleasure, the mind of a young man takes pleasure in a young woman, or the mind of a young girl takes pleasure in a young man. Let my mind, please, O Lord, let my mind become attracted to you alone. So it's like that, whether you're a man or a woman, you know, if you see the form of the opposite sex shaped in a certain way, even if it's in painting or you know, wood or some other medium, then the tendency is to become agitated or to change. Your body changes. This is the nature of the material world. And that's what makes Ramananda Roy's detachment so unique. No one ever should try to be intimate like that with the opposite sex, whether they're the man or a woman, and think that they can get away with it. It's not possible. Only Ramananda Roy can do something like that. So now we're all so fallen, we're all born Shudras, and therefore the statements about the woman having the half of a body of the man or whatever, better half, whatever, it's not to be thought that now every woman you meet is less intelligent and every man you meet is more intelligent. Hardly. Most of the men are less intelligent than the women now. We're seeing it even in politics in the world, you know. Different times, different things. Still, this principle that when the opposite sex, or nowadays it's all very confused. It's more degraded now than before. But in principle, when you come in contact with the opposite sex, the material nature acts in such a way as to cause the agitation, the sexual desire, the sexual agitation to come out. It's part of the nature. You can't avoid it. If you're a group of women talking and a man walks in, the atmosphere changes. If you're a group of men talking and a woman walks in, the atmosphere changes. You can't stop that. You can be aloof from it. You can be less attached or more detached than others. But you can never be completely aloof from it. It's built into the nature. Therefore, you'll hear the results or the examples in the Bhagavatam, especially from the 6th to the 9th cantos, or 3rd to the 9th cantos rather. So many examples of what not to do when it comes to you know, mixing of unnecessary, improper mixing of the genders, of the sexes. So all these things can be understood as we become more mature in our devotional service, as we hear and keep hearing with sincerity, while we strictly follow the principles and perform devotional service and chant the holy names of the Lord inoffensively. Then gradually all these subtle details and subtle things will be revealed to us, and we can become more deeply, more solidly situated in Krishna consciousness. Hare Krishna.
Second question from Rati Manjari.
Yes.
She says, and how should we understand that Sri Ramananda Roy is said to be both Arjuna, Lalita, and Vishaka?
I already explained it.
Oh, then she said, perhaps you've already commented on this just now.
I did. Sometimes some people say this, some people, but the idea to take from it is that they were the most intimate associates of Radharani, and therefore the most intimate associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The reason that Ramananda Roy could do what he did was because he was actually identifying himself fully as a gopi in Vrindavan. He didn't identify with his body as a male at all. So to be on that platform means you must be a descended, liberated soul in the pastimes of the Lord. And anybody who imitates that is fool number one. And even if you're on that platform, you should not externally act like it. You should act like a neophyte devotee. But Ramananda Roy was a unique example. Therefore, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sat to talk with him for the first time, he took the role of a student and let Ramananda Roy answer. Of course, Ramananda Roy, in his answer, said, I'm just like a stringed instrument and you're plucking the strings. I haven't got any idea what I'm talking about. It's all because you're speaking through me. But that was also rasa, because otherwise Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya wouldn't have told Lord Chaitanya, go to see him because he understands better than anyone these things. So in this way Lord Chaitanya preached through his devotees. He didn't always insist that he be sitting up and everyone else sitting down and all these things. He wanted to prove through his practical example that no matter what the birth was, Ramananda Roy's birth was Shudra. He was a, pounds, shillings and pence man, as Prabhupada would say. That was brought out in one of the purports we just read. Prataparudra had to go through all kinds of, jump through all kinds of hoops before he could associate and talk with Lord Chaitanya personally. But Ramananda Roy, he didn't have to jump through any hoops. Because Lord Chaitanya wanted everyone to see that, like Pradyumna Mishra and Ramananda Roy is another example. Pradyumna Mishra was in a purebred, Brahmana family, and Ramananda Roy was in, a Kshatriya family, a Kayasa Kshatriya family, and was a governor. He had to come in contact with all these materialistic things and people. So Lord Chaitanya shouldn't even have talked to him, what to speak of taking lessons from him. But he wanted to show the world that anybody who is actually knowledgeable in the science of Krishna consciousness can be a teacher of Krishna consciousness. That anybody who can perceive that that person knows more than him should accept that person. That's why again what we read was sometimes a person who was having a learned discourse, if he was defeated, he would surrender to the person who was superior in knowledge, no matter who he was. So yes, there are opinions. Different people have different opinions about who was who and this was that. But I would like to, maybe I can clarify one point. And that is, I heard this from Gopi Paranananda Prabhu, that sometimes when it says that one person was this person and that person, it didn't necessarily mean that the two souls, separate souls, came in together and merged and became that person's soul. It meant that they were predominantly one and then took on the nature or some of the qualities of the other to have that statement said about them. That's as far as I can go. Hare Krishna. Okay, I pray that you all relished as much as we did here the hearing of these wonderful pastimes, and who can say that they have assimilated the Caitanya-caritämrta. Like I said, I was reading over things that I just recently read very carefully, and I didn't even remember hearing it. You know, so to assimilate all these books is, you know, and all this knowledge, it's all there in Prabhupada's books. And even if one can't perceive it, it's there. And the more advanced we become, the more will come out, even from the same verse, from the same pastimes, from the same teachings. It's unlimited. So I hope you all enjoyed tonight's reading as much as I did. Hare Krishna. This book is life and soul book. I say the prayer every day, you know, that praying to Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami that he wrote the perfect scripture, composed the perfect scripture, and it became the life and soul of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur and our own dear Srila Prabhupada. And I pray that it may become my life and soul as well. Pray to Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. Alright, Sri Caitanya-caritämrta ki jai. Samaveda Bhakta Brinda ki jai. Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bol. Thank you so much. See you same time, same place, same station. Hare Krishna.